Hi Internet, welcome to the Greg Troyan YouTube channel, and welcome to Greg's 14 Adventures, a weekly vlog where I discuss my journey through Final Fantasy XIV as a first-time player. I beat A Realm Reborn back in 2022, and I'm finally finishing up the rest of the game. These vlogs are documenting my journey. If you like these videos and want to support their continued production, the best way to do that is to like the video, share it on a relevant social media site like Reddit, and leave a comment. Thanks, pal. So for those who don't know, I have a giant list, a to-do list of Final Fantasy XIV content that includes the main story, alliance raids, significant side quests, all that kind of stuff. And it's something that I gathered together through just reading different comment sections on different YouTube videos of what the best content to do is, looking on Reddit, doing, some amount of my own research. In the same way I figured out the way I wanted to approach Final Fantasy XI, I figured out the way I wanted to approach Final Fantasy XIV with, different suggestions being added here and there, like the Scholasticite quest last week, for example. So the list is growing and evolving, but the core of the list has remained pretty strong the entire time I've been playing 14 thus far. And I tried to put the quests in an order that I thought I would enjoy the most based upon just my limited research. So next up on my list was the Warring Triad quests. They were next up on my list. I'm like, all right, that's what I'm going to do. So Leito received a message to meet at the Rising Stones, and while there I talked with all the new Scions, which was pretty fun. And Leito met with a character named Unuk Alhali. Oh man, some of these names in 14. Unuk Alhai. There we go, that seems about right. And the character gives us a bunch of lore about the Warring Triad, and tells us we need to defeat Bismarck and Ravana again. And so I had the wiki pulled up, I'm looking at the wiki, I'm like, it says those quests aren't required, and that they're optional, but the other quest that I need isn't popping up, so I guess I gotta do them. So I hop into the duty finder, hoping to find some people to help me do them, but nobody's on, and I'm like, alright, well I guess I'll just try later. And I ended up logging in a bunch of times, hoping to do those two fights. But again, the duty finder would just go on and on forever, and nobody was logging in to do the fights. Nobody had those in their queue. So then I went back and looked at the wiki and realized, oh, those are optional. All right, why is this main quest that I need to continue the Warring Triad storyline, why is that not appearing? And it turns out I need to progress farther in the MSQ to get that quest to populate, which was really annoying because I like doing an entire quest line at once. I like sort of binging it to get the full breadth of the storyline. So starting the Warring Triad quest and then being like, JK, do this later, was a bit frustrating, I'm not gonna lie. But luckily I got, barely into it at all. And really, it was more of a time waste than anything, because all the times I just sat waiting in the queues, hoping somebody would show up to do the boss fights with me. So the biggest annoyance with starting that quest line was more about the time wasted of just sitting in the queues and nothing happening, and then find out, oh, I can't progress the story anyway, even if I did those quests. So it was a bit of a bummer. But I decided, you know what? All right, let's just move on to the next on the list. Move the list around so the Warring Triad quests are able to be binged all at once. I rearranged my to-do list, so moved the Warring Triad down a bit. And next up was Shadows of Mhach. And I was pretty excited to do them because, another Alliance raid, the Alliance raid from A Realm Reborn with the Final Fantasy III theming was really memorable, really cool. And this one seemed less obvious, ooh, what game is it going to pay tribute to? Because I couldn't tell based upon just the title of the raid series, because obviously we've got the Final Fantasy XI raid series, we've got the Nier raid series, we've got the Evil East raid series, and so I figured each raid series would be kind of themed after a particular game, or a main theme of some kind. Because Evil East, I know they theme it of 12 and tactics, and so I'm like, okay, that's kind of like a universe thing, so what is going to be the theme of this raid series? I had no idea based on the title, but I was excited to find out, because I don't have spoilers for this. I'm going to be genuinely surprised with what occurs. And the thumbnail for the first quest was Sky Pirates. I'm just like, oh, what are these raids going to be themed like? I have no idea. My curiosity is running wild. What game is this going to be paying tribute to? What's going to be the theme of these set of quests? And so the story begins with Leito helping Leofard, a sky pirate, investigate a mysterious ghost ship called the Void Ark. And, I'm like, okay, so maybe a Final Fantasy V thing, but in the sky, because, ghost pirate ship, maybe? But the storyline was just, very, very chill and didn't seem that epic. It felt like a side quest and not the grand, epic Alliance raid series that the Realm Reborn Crystal Tower questline was. This just felt super average. It felt like the questline for any random optional dungeon, but instead it was for an Alliance raid. Like, it didn't feel as grand and epic as I was expecting it to be because, this is where you get all the players together. It's supposed to be this big, giant set piece. And it felt just more like any other random side quest dungeon in terms of the setup. I'm like, okay, well, maybe the dungeon itself would be really, really cool. And so I ended up hopping in the Duty Finder on Exodus because I've always had good luck with finding parties for raids on Exodus. Even when I've done just the random, Duty Roulette raids, I've always found parties pretty quickly. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll just do what I always do. Go on Exodus and do the raids. But nobody was in the queues to do raids. And I ended up waiting a really long time and got kicked off the server several times. There's been lots of jokes about DDoS attacks on the servers lately. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. I'm not as much of a techie if I can know if that's a meme or something sincerely happening. But I ended up getting kicked off Exodus 3 times trying to, be in the Duty Finder. And just waited for hours. Just left it on in the background while working. Did some fates while waiting. But nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was a complete waste of a day. And I felt really, really frustrated. For those who watched my vlog on the A Realm Reborn Alliance raids and the long queues I was in and just, waiting and nothing happening, and then finding out that people on Exodus do raids a lot and thinking, oh, well, that problem's just past me. I figured out how to get past this problem, and then to be presented with it again was very frustrating. And on top of that, my life has felt like it's been at a standstill a bit lately. Work hasn't been super great. Progress with personal projects haven't gone as well as I'd like. My last video essay bombed. And so the great thing about 14 is that as I'm going through this story and the content, it feels like I'm progressing. I'm achieving a goal. My goal, to play every Final Fantasy game, beat every Final Fantasy game, beat all the main lines, and 14 is the last one on the list. And then to have that come to a standstill too, like everything else has seemed to come to a standstill, is just, it kind of put me in a sour mood. It just I had a bunch of things not go well right for me at work that day. I had a bunch of stuff was sort of piling up. I don't want to get too personal about it, just for the sake of privacy of other people involved. But just it was a lot of stuff that was just this really frustrating standstill and feeling frozen in time. And I just did not like it. So I ended up deciding to try again later in the evening because, like I said, it was a rough day and I really just wanted to accomplish something. And so I went back on Exodus and did the Party Finder and met a player named Kurgan Sunstrider and found out they've got a pretty cool YouTube channel called The Phantom Merchant. And so we talked shop and just hung out for a bit while we were waiting for people to join the Party Finder with us. Got kicked off the server again. Again, it's just, I got kicked off the servers so many times the last few days. But we weren't getting any luck in the Party Finder, so I started posting in some Discord servers I'm in, including my own, and one called Azure Skies, which is basically a bunch of Final Fantasy XI players who are all on Blue Sky. So basically everyone on that server is like, hey, we are all leftists, and we all like Final Fantasy XI. And so it's just a lot of like-minded individuals. And they have a 14 channel on the server, so I posted in the 14 channel hey, I'm on Exodus if anyone wants to join me trying to do this raid. And Riddle Girl, who has been in the comments section for a while and suggested one of the quests I did last week, happened to be on the Discord server at the time and joined our party. And so the three of us and then one other player did the raid together, the first raid in the series. We did it unsynced because we didn't want to wait for, a bunch of other people to join the party with us because it was taking so long. And it was pretty cool. Honestly, the raid itself didn't do much for me, but the experience of playing with Kurgan and Radel Girl really is what made it special, because just the conversations that we had before and after the raid, which were just really, really pleasant, and both of them ended up joining my Discord server. So it was just really cool just getting to hang out with them and getting to know both of them better. Kurgan and I hit it off right away, but Radel Girl and I, we've known each other for a bit, but it's nice to actually talk a bit more and actually, have a bit more back and forth and actually get to know someone a bit better. In general, with the MMOs, the social aspect is really secondary to me in terms of what I get out of the game. A lot of people with MMOs, the social aspect is the primary, and then the story content and such is secondary. And I am less of an MMO guy in general. I enjoy the Final Fantasy MMOs because they're great Final Fantasy games, not because I'm necessarily an MMO guy. But that said, this was really hitting for me the way that you want to experience an MMO is where you are bonding with other players, developing a connection, and that connection ends up outshining the content. And that's what happened here. the content itself was kind of like mid, but the experience with other players was peak. So before I go back into explaining the story of what's going on with these raid quests, this is the mid-video call to action. This is the part of the video where I ask you to like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you're feeling so inclined, share the video. Share it on Reddit, share it on Facebook, Blue Sky. Tell people that, like, hey, this guy Greg, he's playing through 14 for the first time, and he's giving vlogs every week talking about his experience. Also, if anybody is interested, I've got a live stream coming up on Saturday the 22nd. We are ranking the songs on the Taylor Swift album Folklore. And so it's kind of like a book club for albums where each of us listens to the album, ranks the songs, then we discuss the group ranking. And so if you want to join us for the live stream, listen to the album, and then give us your thoughts in the live chat, please do. That'll be Saturday the 22nd. I've been really enjoying going through the Taylor Swift discography with my friends, even though not all of them are into Taylor Swift. Some of them are Swifties, some of them are haters, some of them are neutral. But it's fun going through an artist catalog with friends and developing a better appreciation for it and just discussing art with friends. It's been pretty fun. So if anyone's interested in that, that's going to be the 22nd. All right, mid-video call to action over. So the party discovers that the Void Ark is powered by sealed void scent monsters and contains a powerful void scent called Scaith, the Shadow Queen, inside a coffin. And we see a talking cat named Xaith, or Catsy, and he explains that he was created in the city of Mhach, which was a city known for its destructive magic users. Xaith reveals that a void scent named Diabolos has entered the Void Ark and broken through the seals and is trying to revive its Shadow Queen. And so here's where I get some mixed feelings on the storyline. Or rather, I continue to have mixed feelings. On the one hand, I was actually super excited when I saw that Xaith was using the Final Fantasy XI design. That was really, really unexpected but awesome. You guys all know I'm a big Final Fantasy XI fan. Wings of the Goddess is my favorite Final Fantasy XI expansion, so obviously a Wings of the Goddess reference got me really pumped. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. I didn't see this coming. This is awesome. But on the other hand, knowing that we're just like fighting Diabolos again, even though I really like the Diabolos boss fight in the Lost City of Ampedor optional dungeon, I thought that was cool. It's like, we're just doing this again? It didn't feel worthy of the epicness of a raid series to just fight a boss that we fought already. And it felt very womp womp anticlimactic. And so I think as I was going through the storyline, I was realizing this was probably part of the growing pains of 14, where the devs didn't know what they were supposed to do with the raids necessarily, where the A Realm Reborn raids had a big spectacle and paid tribute to an older game, and like had theming around one particular Final Fantasy. And then this raid series had a couple different aspects from a couple different Final Fantasies, didn't really have a strong theme of one particular game, and focused on like heavy lore from past civilization. And so I think the message they got between the two raid series was, oh, what we should do with the raids are focus on lore from a past civilization. I think that was the lesson they took from the A Realm Reborn raid series, when the lesson they probably should have took from it was we should have a big spectacle that pays tribute to something that fans know and are hyped about. And I think that's why the other raids, it looks like most of them at least, except for maybe the Endwalker one, which I don't know what that raid series is necessarily about, but it looks like the other raids follow more the A Realm Reborn format of like, let's pay tribute to a specific storyline from another game, really focus hard on the theming, hit some nostalgia triggers, and this one seemed to be like, oh, what people liked about the last storyline, it was the lore, right? Which, yes, the lore in the other storyline for the Allegans was really, really good, but it is missing that sauce, that expectation that the A Realm Reborn raids had, that these raids don't necessarily have. And so I'm wondering, are these the lowest, if someone was ranking the raid series, the Alliance raids in 14, do people rank these raids at the bottom? I'm genuinely curious because I think overall I like them a lot less than the A Realm Reborn raids. And I don't know if part of it is because of the way that I played them, or part of it is the content itself and the storyline itself. But anyway, Xaith, with the help of Lyto and the Red Bills, the pirates that we've been sort of teaming up with in this questline, aim to stop Diabolos. And so we track Diabolos down to the Weeping City of Mhach, where we all hope to get the Nullstone Staff, a weapon that's basically capable of just destroying Void Scent. A rival pirate gang and their leader, Radilla, had gone into the city, but their attempts to raid and plunder for treasure had gone very wrong, and so we go in to both get the No Stone staff and to rescue them. And so I ended up putting together another unrestricted party and figured out how to set it up properly thanks to Radel Girl teaching me. And after finally getting a party that we felt was strong enough to go through the dungeon, we go in and immediately my internet goes out and I'm kicked out of the dungeon. I'm kicked out of 14 completely. It's so frustrating. I was having so much internet trouble that day. It made work a giant hassle. I was also having trouble with Another Eden, the gacha game that I play. I was given these error messages that I couldn't log in, and that was really frustrating. That took hours to fix, and it was, like I said, I had a lot of frustrations with tech and stuff this week. But after I got my internet back up, the other party members were still in the raid waiting for me, which was great. And, the set pieces were okay. The dungeon design was fine, but it wasn't blowing me away necessarily. But then I saw a giant orb-shaped monster boss that we were going to fight, and I just shouted Ozma, because I thought it just looked like Ozma, and I was being kind of, cheeky and silly. And then it turns out it actually was Ozma. Ozma was an unexpected boss fight in this raid series. That was super cool. I've never actually fought Ozma in Final Fantasy IX because I thought the boss fight looked like too much of a pain in the ass, so I didn't bother with it. But getting to unexpectedly fight Ozma here was really, really cool. I was hyped. It was awesome. It gave me what I wanted from the raid series, which was references to other Final Fantasy games that didn't feel like a repeat of what I was doing earlier in 14, where Diabolos felt like, okay, we've done this before. Ozma and Scaith felt like, oh, I haven't seen them in 14 before. This is fun. That's what I wanted from the storyline. So we were able to retrieve the Nullstone and rescue Radilla, but later on, Diabolos manages to steal it from us during an attack on the Red Bill's base. And so that was all I had time for in terms of the raid series that day, because then I, had my weekly play date with Summoner Jobin, and we went back to doing the Hildibrand 1.0 questline together, which, again, really love that Hildibrand 1.0 questline. We're on all the Ultros stuff right now, and it's comedic gold. I mean, Ultros, one of the funniest Final Fantasy characters, Gilgamesh, one of the funniest Final Fantasy characters, and Hildibrand, one of the funniest Final Fantasy characters, all in the same quest line. Just so many great gags with Ultros. Him being chased down by Godbert, and man, Ultros looks so good in 14. He transitions into the game so great. Just all around excellent. But anyway, I woke up the next day at 4 a.m. because I wanted to finish all of the raids this week, because splitting them up into 2 separate videos, felt really annoying to me. And I'm very much a progress-oriented person, so I'm like, no, I'm finishing the raids this week, damn it. And so what has been my general approach to these raids is do the cutscenes and, story stuff early in the morning, and then hope to find people in the Duty Finder or Party Finder later in the day when I feel like people are more awake and more likely to be on and playing 14. But this time I decided something different. I'm like, nope, I'm up at 4 a.m., I'm going to do the story stuff, and then I'm going to jump in the Party Finder, and I'm just going to hope I find, 2 other people that are up, and we can just plow through this dungeon unrestricted, because I just want to finish these quests. And it took a while, but I did get a group together and finish the raid series. The final boss was just, Super Diabolos, which felt kind of anticlimactic, because, I fought him before. Now I'm fighting him again. The big climax of the storyline is basically Leofard sacrificing his airship to help destroy Diabolos permanently, and Scaith joining the Red Bills, because Scaith was the familiar of a mage from the Lost Civilization and didn't really have any purpose in life beyond just, resolving the issues of the past. And so it gives Scaith something to do, joining the Sky Pirates. But there really wasn't that much story in this raid series. There was lore about the Lost Civilization and how they were exploiting the Void Scent for power and how that was bad. And there were some really cool highlights, Leofard has this portrait of his mom in his study, and it reminded me a lot of Xenogears, so that gave me a lot of goodwill towards the storyline. Find out his backstory about how his mom wanted him to live a life of freedom, and then he named his airship after his mom, but he was willing to sacrifice that to save everybody. That was really cool. And the engineer girl, Utada, hugging Scaith was a really funny scene because she just couldn't resist his cuteness. There were some really good elements in here, but it was less of a spectacle, there was less of a plot hook, and it really felt like more of a side quest than a grand alliance raid. It didn't feel like that major set piece that I felt it should have felt. Fighting Diabolos again felt a little bit been there, done that. And because it didn't pay tribute to anything specific, it just felt like I was trying so hard just to grasp, like, what is the theming that I'm going for here? What is the hook? And don't get me wrong, I don't need everything to be nostalgia bait. And I do, in general, like original ideas more than just rehashing old ideas. Like, I'm one of those guys who would rather play a game I've never played before than to replay something I've already played. But all that said, like, the narrative hook, the, like, original settings weren't interesting enough to really grab me. And the fact that, like, Diabolos ended up being the final boss again after he was, like, a, fun, really cool boss fight, but, wasn't very hard. And so it's like, you're fighting Diabolos again. It's like, it lacked that excitement factor for me, and it just wasn't as interesting. Again, I loved the XIV, I loved Ozma. Those were probably the two big highlights for me in terms of like what the game itself provided. The actual highlights were the experiences with other players, but it was kind of a letdown in comparison to the Realm Reborn raids. So I want to know what you guys think. How do you feel about this raid series? Am I just too colored by the fact that I did them unrestricted and didn't get the grand epicness of doing this with a bunch of people and actually experiencing the full-on mechanics? Or do you guys think that, like, this has a, weaker story overall, the set pieces aren't as interesting? Does this rank lower in the Alliance raids? I want to know. I want to get the discussion going. So, once again, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord if it so pleases you. Share the video on Reddit if you like, and tell people this Greg guy is pretty cool. But yeah, again, thanks so much for watching, and thank you for the folks who played along with me this week. It was just great getting to play with you guys this week, and I'll see you guys in the comments, the Discord, the next video, and maybe even in 14 if we're on at the same time. Later, guys and girls, and everything in between. Peace.